All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Small, the Executive Secretary of the Montana AFL-CIO. Today is January 31st, and we are bringing you the Blue Collar News. So we're continuing on with our weekly or twice a week update of what's happening in the Montana Legislature, what the AFL-CIO is tracking, following, and what we're doing to try to make everything right for everybody that follows us. All right, so first off, we have a couple of bills that we need to bring up. We have calls to action. So if you want to write in or send a message to a legislator or whatnot, we have material on our website, and there'll be links in a newsletter for House Bill 131, which is the Kerry Seekins-Crow bill, which seeks to eliminate 4 weeks off unemployment insurance. So what it's going to do is knock unemployment insurance down from 24 weeks to 20 weeks. It is on the House floor today. Will be up sometime at 1 o'clock. It'll be up for a second reading on the House floor. We're going to try to amend it so we can fix some of the bigger issues that we have with the bill. Obviously, a 4-week deduction on unemployment is pretty major on its own, but what we're trying to do is amend it so if there's a WARN notice or a massive layoff of some form that it doesn't take effect and you can term out your unemployment claim. And then the next bill we'll talk about is House Bill 320. Now, this is a Denning bill. It's all about school vouchers, and the hearing is this afternoon. It's a pretty bad bill. I mean, it's fiscally irresponsible. Hopefully, the committee won't make any decisions at all until they do see the fiscal note. It's going to show a huge cost, and the money that this is going to burn up effectively should be going towards property tax or something that's actually useful. It's discriminatory to students. Full-time public school students are excluded from the bill, and rural and American Indian kids are also left out. It's also discriminatory to parents. Parents who choose to send their kids to public school will incur the same expenses for tutoring, travel, supplies, and etc., but are excluded. This bill also grows government. It requires Department of Admin resources and time, creates a new government oversight council. It's duplicative and unnecessary. We already have a voucher system established in 2021. One other thing, it's just straight unfair to taxpayers. This money should be going to property tax, not for welfare or for the wealthy, welfare to the wealthy. And it siphons dollars from public schools, $4 million a year and growing. So basically they're trying to subsidize a small set of kids when meanwhile this should be invested in the 90% of the kids that actually go to public school in the state of Montana. If you want to do call to action material, write in, send emails. We'll have that material all ready for you to go, and you can actively participate to help us along. All right, so we're going to have a special guest today from the Montana Nurses Association, and she'll be here to speak about their issues, thoughts, and their concerns for their membership in Montana, and what they're proactively doing to work with the Montana Legislature and what they're shooting for to get the best outcome for their membership. So anyway, it's going to be a good day, and we'll catch up with you in a bit. All righty. So we have our special guest here from the Montana Nurses Association. Robin, why don't you give us a little introduction? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, Jason, and thank you for having me. My name is Robin Haux. I am the Labor Program Director for the Montana Nurses Association, and I've been here for about almost 15 years now.
All right. What's your previous experience? What kind of background did you come from?
Actually, prior to working at M&A, I was a labor representative for AFSCME Council 9 here in Helena.
Oh, excellent. Perfect. All right, so we have a pretty short list of questions, nothing real major, but I guess we'll lead with tell us a bit about the Montana Nurses Association and how nurses advocate for themselves and their patients.
M&A has been in existence for over 100 years with their priorities to advocate for registered nurses and APRNs across the state, whether they're members or not. First and foremost, we are the Professional Nursing Association for the state of Montana. And we also have a collective bargaining arm under our association. And in 1967, Mary Munger, who was a long time, she's since deceased, but was one of the longest members of MNA. And in 1967, she championed the Blue-Eyed Nursing Bill, which gave nurses the right to collectively bargain in Montana. And so with that, we represent nurses on the state level as we through our collective bargaining, through legislative processes, and nationally, we are affiliated with the American Nurses Association for our professional side, and then we're affiliated with the American Federation of Teachers, Public Employees, and Healthcare on the labor side.
Right on. It's quite the mix. How's things going for you guys? I mean, membership stays pretty active. How does that look?
Well, we always have, I think with any association, you always have challenges with membership, but we have a very strong staff and we do our best to work to keep engagement at every level in our association. I think right now, we've been really successful over the last 12 months in negotiations for increasing nursing wages in the state. Last year, our labor team, two of our labor reps were working with local in Missoula, were able to negotiate the highest wage increase we've ever seen at MNA for nurses. And that was done. I cannot stress enough how the nurse engagement made that happen. We helped provide the tools to them to help, with the strategic plan, but they took that and ran and single-handedly really made an impact. And that impact is being felt across the state as we're continuing to negotiate higher increases due to what that local 17 accomplished in Missoula.
Right on. So what are some of the main concerns you see when you're negotiating better contracts for Montana nurses?
I think the main concerns the nurses bring forward, our recruitment and retention is a number one priority. And on top of that, that is side by side with safe staffing. Every facility we represent and every facility that we most likely don't represent, all are having struggles with nurse staffing. We all are aware that there is a national shortage of nurses, and we feel that here in Montana. So I think that's those top two pieces is finding a way to recruit nurses to our state and finding a way to keep them local, because the more experienced nurses you have, they can help guide our newer nurses, and keeping them working at that facility really does improve patient care over time. Safe staffing standards is so important we think that's a number one issue for recruitment and also for retention. Additionally, workplace violence is a really high priority for the nurses in Montana. Last year, we were able to secure a mandatory reporting bill. Unfortunately, it had a sunset, and so we're working this legislative session to try to lift that sunset so that the Department of Justice can continue to gather the data on instances of workplace violence in healthcare.
Excellent. So, getting away from contracts and things like that, what are the main challenges that nurses actually face on the job in Montana?
I think main challenges are definitely working short. The high patient ratios and working short are what we hear about the most. It's a challenge that every hospital and healthcare facility faces, is balancing, the number of nurses with the number of patients. And I think historically, finding that balance is a very challenging thing that the hospitals and the nurses have to accomplish. I've seen and have spoken with nurses about the fact that patient acuity, when patients are kept in the hospital, they are sicker than they used to be. than even 30 years ago. And, you were stay in the hospital. When you maybe just had a knee replacement, you would stay in the hospital for a couple days. These are outpatient procedures that are being done now. So those patients who are being admitted now have extreme high acuity, and that has greatly impacted our nurses having the time that they need to provide the care that they want to care. And on top of that, not having enough staff and having high patient ratios is really challenging. We do know nationally, and the studies show lower patient ratios really impact the care that the nurses can provide. And our nurses in Montana want to be able to provide the care they know they can give, and the safest and highest quality care that they can provide. So a goal, that's probably the biggest struggle that they have.
Right. It's kind of a relentless deal, right? I mean, you can never get the time you need to get done what should be done, and
right.
It seems like it's that way across the board for everything anymore. So, as the session continues, the legislative session, what would you like to see? What would the nurses like to see to better support the critical work that you do? Any reform or bills, or I guess what's that look like? What are you looking for? What would you like to end up with?
So our priorities this year are, we are bringing another safe staffing standards bill forward. We do have a sponsor. Cora Newman has agreed to sponsor that bill. It's LC 3225, I believe. Our goal, we know so this bill would provide for an act entitled Safe Staffing Standards for Registered Nurses and Patients, establishing minimum nurse staffing standards and nurse staffing committees in hospitals to protect and enhance safe, quality patient care. The bill is designed to protect patients, to implement safe nurse to patient ratios, to help prevent nurse burnout, and also to help improve recruitment and retention. We know that unsafe nurse to patient ratios is associated with a 7% increase in hospital mortality. And our goal with this is to reduce that percentage. And additionally, this bill would create nurse staffing committees, which would provide for joint collaboration with hospitals and nurses to provide the best standard of high quality patient care. And that's probably where that acuity piece I talked about, that they could have that ability to discuss and really talk about ratios and how that would benefit, the hospital. This bill, we also related to staffing. It is also well known in the healthcare community that safely staffing reduces incidences of workplace violence, which kind of provides me to my segue to our next legislative priority, which is to lift the sunset for the mandatory reporting bill, and allow the Department of Justice to continue gathering the data for workplace violence instances in healthcare facilities in the state. We only had the bill that we got into law last session. They only have 1 year of reporting. It's available on the DOJ's website, but we think we need that more.
Right. You'd like to have a little more documentation. Was there anything you can derive from trends in the data that's on the DOJ website?
Yeah, we can. It took us a bit of time to find out who was going to implement the law once it was brought, signed into law. I think there was a definite lag time. Us learning the process of where it needed to go and who needed to build the reporting. I mean, all of that had to be built. The site had to be built and how to do that. And also making sure the healthcare facilities across the state knew that this was a requirement now. And I think that took some time. So we're really hoping to allow that data to get collected. We've made this a priority for the nurses in Montana for many legislative sessions. And one of the roadblocks we always came up across was just just the elected leaders just didn't understand that this was happening. And there was a lot of sentiment that this was kind of like part of the job. We don't agree it's part of the job. And so through many attempts to try to bring legislation forward that we weren't successful in getting passed, the goal of this bill was to provide the data so that lawmakers could look at the data and see that, and then maybe in the future, make a change to a different type of penalty or something. And then again, our goal with the Safe Staffing Standards bill is to, we know that these two go hand in hand, and we hope that we can be successful in getting both of these through.
So that's about all the questions I had. Anything you feel like you should bring up?
No, I really appreciate you inviting us, M&A, to chat with you today. We appreciate all the work you're doing. We're really enjoying our collaboration. And we think over the last few sessions, this group has gotten more and more organized and more cohesive. So it's been exciting seeing that. And we appreciate all you're doing too, Jason. So thank you.
It's not me, it's my staff. They're great. Anyway,
I know, you're right there at the helm.
Anyway, no, thank you for showing up today. It's been a pleasure. And I was just going to leave with a final thought here. Contrary to what we've been hearing in some hearings, testimony and whatnot, it really isn't okay to be poor. Nobody deserves that. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you.